Giger, I've had some dealings with. Now Giger is another one. Universal paid millions of dollars to have him do those production designs, and Universal is very, they're a hornet's nest in terms of this project. That was why I was trying to tell you that this project has blood. There's a lot of blood on the street.
At the start of 2014, I wrote and published online a free story, short fan fiction, and I've just received in the last week of December a cease and desist letter. So what's this about? Well, 25 years ago I'm a teenager and I learn of this amazing unmade science fiction film called The Tourist. And it became famous because H.I. Giger, who designed the Alien, created these amazing alien artworks for monsters that were going to be in this film. And Universal Pictures spent $1 million preparing the film and doing all of the pre-production, and then pulled the plug because they couldn't figure out a way to actually put it together. So they took a tax loss, and that was the end of the project. But I've always been fascinated by it. I've always wanted to see this movie. So last year I'm reminded of The Tourist, and I go back and look at the 1981 screenplay. Just found it online, read it, and it's a bit of a mess. There's a reason why this film was never made, but it got under my skin when I was thinking about it for a lot. And one day I just sat down, sketched an outline. I thought, oh, that could work. Spent a day or two writing out the story. And I spent a week refining it, and it looked nice. So I decided to put it online as a fan fiction. And the response I got was fantastic. I mean, people really warmed to it, and the people I showed it to found it quite nice. And the feedback I got was genuinely pleasant. Now, because the feedback had been so nice, I decided what would be really nice is if I sent copies to the original creatives who worked on the movie. Almost everybody who worked on it is connected by Universal Pictures in one way or another. Now, because I'm involved in publishing, rather than just print it out and send it, I can actually do print-on-demand paperbacks very, very cheaply. I could do it less than £1 for one of these. So I printed 75 copies of the short story, but I packaged it nicely as a print-on-demand paperback. And the book actually says on the back that it is strictly not for sale. It says on the inside that it's not-for-profit fan fiction. It explains where it came from. And I sent it to them, and the response I got from Universal Pictures was fantastic. I mean, people loved it. In particular, I got into an email conversation with the film's original producer, a lovely lady called Rennie Missel. The first thing Rennie said in her email is, "I will read it." And then she came back with lovely things to say about it. And we got to talk about The Tourist and the history and what had happened, what had gone wrong, how it had failed. And it's one of those really fascinating sort of Hollywood stories, and I was getting it firsthand from the producer. So what happens next is I receive a postcard from Clair Noto, the film's original screenwriter. I'm so thrilled. Oh, can this be? Clair Noto's got in touch. But a postcard is kind of quaint. It's like receiving a telegram. So on the day of the Oscars, on the Sunday afternoon, I telephoned her. My wife took out her phone and started to film it. And it was strange because Claire clearly didn't understand a lot of things. I mean, she was a little incoherent, but it was understanding. So, for example, she couldn't understand where I found the script of The Tourist. That you couldn't...
The script of The Tourist is on the internet?
Yeah, of course. It's been on the internet for...
Which is it the original version? I mean, who do you think put that screenplay on the internet? Who would have done that?
Another thing that Claire couldn't understand was fan fiction. She found it very difficult to grasp this idea that somebody would write a story and put it online for free just because it was fun. It was a nice thing to do. And in particular with the paperback, she was concerned about the barcode. Produced is fan fiction. There's no profit. I wrote it for fun. It was like a kid
But,
who...
if there's no profit, you have on the back cover a scanner. You've got an ISBN number.
Yeah. And I was explaining that the barcode is ISBN, it's used for cataloguing purposes. But she couldn't understand that. She was convinced, absolutely convinced, that if it was scannable, somebody, somewhere, must be making money off this.
I mean, if this is being disseminated kind of all over, at least all over Europe and Mexico, I mean, somebody's got to be making some money.
No. So during our telephone call, Claire tells me, it says that I think I have some rights here, because 7 years after the original option, some rights would have reverted back to her. So although Universal have the right to make a movie and Universal own the copyright of the screenplay, other rights, so for example to make a television series, those rights Claire believed had reverted to her. But obviously we're talking about something 30 years past, so she wasn't entirely sure what rights she had as we spoke on the telephone. So I'm having this conversation with Claire, and it's fun, it's a blast. I mean, I'm talking to the screenwriter of The Tourist, my own personal pet love, and she's telling me about meeting Ridley Scott, she's telling me about meeting Adrian Lyne and working with Giger and all these Hollywood stories. But at no point did she ever say, I want you to stop doing what you're doing. I don't want this out online. And that never came into the conversation at once. So that was 10 months ago. So I thought everything was fine. And then just now, a few days before Christmas, from the Writers Guild of America, I get this cease and desist all copyright infringement letter. So I'm going to read some of this out. So it begins with a preamble about what the Writers Guild of America are. And it says, as Miss Noto is the exclusive licensee of the publication rights to the screenplay, you have no right to copy, distribute, advertise, offer for sale, and or sell any material that copies in whole or in part, or is based on. Well, it was based on her screenplay, so it says I have no right. I'm absolutely happy to respect that. The WGA and Miss Noto demand that you immediately cease and desist your unlawful copying of the screenplay or any work derived from the screenplay, including but not limited to the book. Absolutely, I will do that, no problem. Contact, this is what it says next, I need to contact all persons or entities to whom you have directly or indirectly provided copies of the screenplay or the book, and inform them that such materials are copyright protected materials and were used or provided improperly in infringement of Miss Noto's rights. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing. Destroy all copies of the screenplay and the book. Now come on. So I don't have a copy of the screenplay. I mean, it's online. I don't think I've ever had a physical copy. I just read it on the computer. Like I say, there was 75 of these made. Almost all of them were given away. And they were sent to people at Universal, and I give them to friends. And I have 2 or 3 copies myself. But I will, and I promise you in good faith, I will destroy this. I mean, it sounds a little bit, it's like Fahrenheit 451. It's a little bit like Nazi book burning. That's kind of destroy. It shall be done. Provide to the WGA a list specifying how many copies of the screenplay and book you have sold. I didn't sell them. And at what price each was sold. 0. Provide written assurance in the form of the attached document that you have complied with these directives and will not in future accept for sale or sell any of Miss Noto's copyright protected materials. Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. Okay, it's done. I mean, I'm happy to comply with everything. I mean, I write books, right? This is my books, right? This is what I do for fun. So I write books. I can't help but think, if somebody sent me a fan fiction and said, you know what, I really love your work, I was so inspired, I wrote this and I sent it to you, I'm sure I'd be thrilled. I, it just seems a bit strange that 10 months after talking about it that this happens. But like I say, I'm an author myself, and I would be upset if somebody infringed on my rights. I certainly wasn't aware that I was infringing on Clair's rights. I thought that it was owned by Universal Pictures, and I sent it to Universal Pictures believing I'd sent it to the rights owner. But I'm more than happy to comply with everything that's asked of me. That's not an issue. I do find it a little bit strange. I mean, it's a cease and desist letter, but it had ceased. I don't think anybody's downloading it. The paperbacks were given away in March. They're all gone, except for 2 or 3 that I own. It had ceased. It had been forgotten. And now I've got a letter telling me to go out and publicise that, that thing that I did, you can't have it. It's banned, which is probably going to make it more famous. In fact, it has the potential to make it more popular than it ever was. It's kind of forgotten, so it had ceased. It had already stopped, but I'm happy to go. The nice thing, I suppose, if there's a silver lining, and I actually put it in a frame. So this is my cease and desist letter. I am officially a banned controversial author. This is my proof that I have had a work banned, which is kind of a cool thing. That's the silver lining, I suppose. But the real heartache is that because there were only 75 of these, and I now have 2 or 3 copies left, and it asks me to destroy them, and I will. Which is, I think that's a little bit sad.
Look, these are all novels. All about people that never existed. The people that read them and makes them unhappy with their own lives, makes them want to live in other ways that can never really be. So, we must burn the books, Montag. All the books.
Sir?
We must burn the books, Montag. All the books.